Hi, it's Govinda Singh 1984. As many of you may be aware, I have been suffering from schizophrenia for about 13 years now. My schizophrenia used to be very severe. Before I was medicated, I was very psychotic, very aggressive, and I was very delusional. I was constantly living in a hallucination, and I spent many years talking to myself. Um, so this vlog is going to be about evolution, one of the topics that's very important to me, but I'm going to speak it and say what's on my mind as if I was speaking to myself. But whereas in 2009, 2008, it was just mumbo jumbo, it was not making any sense because I was very psychotic and my mind was in overdrive. I'm stable now, so I just want to express myself of so people can get an understanding of what goes through the mind of some schizophrenics. So I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to speak to myself, and you lot can eavesdrop like perverted voyeurs secretly filming me and make your own mind up. And this is my belief. The world was a piece of molten lava rock, and it was orbiting the planet, the sun, in our solar system. Now, when the planet was a molten piece of lava, a jagged rock, it could not harbour any form of life because organisms cannot survive in intense heat. So, when scientists have discovered that on the asteroids, that the asteroids contain ice, and so it's very possible, very much likely, that there was a collision between the molten planet and the asteroids. Now, if you were to imagine putting a piece of ice on your tongue, it sticks. So it's very possible that when the asteroids collided with the jagged piece of molten rock, that the asteroid stuck to the heat, and if you imagine maybe thousands or maybe millions of asteroids just smashing into the molten piece of rock, it will cool down the rock and the ice will stick and melt, and there will be a steam effect, and this steam effect will eventually cause an atmosphere to form. So during the early stages of the planet's life or the planet's evolution, um, oceans started to develop and evolve, and so within the depths of these oceans, organisms started to mutate. So it's very possible that on comets that fly through the galaxy, that just are shooting from one end to the other, or on the asteroids, that there's frozen bacteria, there's frozen genetics and DNA that have been frozen on these asteroids and comets. So when it cools down and oceans have formed, it's very possible that these genetics start to mutate. This bacteria starts to mutate within the depths of the ocean. So before there was life on land, or before the land formed, before trees started um, growing on the surface of the now cooled down planet, um, within the depths of the ocean, bacteria is very much likely, actually very certain, mutating and evolving. Now, as soon as plants and trees started to grow on the surface of the cooled down molten lava and the fertile soil, oxygenation took place, where all the gases and the poisons were absorbed by the leaves of the trees and emitted oxygen. So this is having a dramatic change in the environment and the atmosphere of the planet. So you have to wonder, when archaeologists have discovered all these ancient fossils of ancient species that lived within the depths of the ocean. So if you to imagine the fish, the jellyfish, the bacteria, you have reptile species, mammal species, there's very much millions or maybe thousands of different species. Now, as the land and the surface became habitable due to the trees and the oxygenation, species from the depths of the ocean started to evolve on the surface of the land, such as the amphibians. species that could live in both water and land, and reptiles and mammals from the ocean started to adapt to the new environment. So it's very much likely that when human beings have the same membrane cells or similar membrane cells as the whales within the depths of the oceans, and when you see how intelligent the dolphins are, it's very possible that the primate and the human species evolved from some mammal-like whale or dolphin species within the depths of the ocean. So gradually you have various species that evolved to be the dinosaurs, that evolved to be the prehistoric creatures and the prehistoric species like dinosaurs, crocodiles, reptiles, and then mammals such as bears and lions and tigers. So various species have evolved to the new changing environment, and it's known as chance mutation, adapting to survive in a new habitat. And it is it's amazing that when you look at the species, whether they're from Asia, South America, or Africa, for example, in Africa you have the chimpanzee, you have the gorillas, you have the baboons. In Asia you have the orangutans, you have the rhesus monkey, you have the langur monkey. And in China you have various monkey species, and in South America there's many monkey species. So it's very much possible and very likely, as the environment started changing and the primates from various continents started evolving, I personally believe it had to be divine intervention that kickstart the process from the animal state of the primate to eventually evolve into the human state. So it could be possible that it was due to consciousness. The species such as the monkeys, the rhesus monkey, and the chimpanzees and the gorillas, they may have started becoming consciously aware and consciously aware of their surroundings. And this could have kick-started an evolution process where many species started to evolve. So when languages started to evolve, when emotions associated with certain sounds and grunts started to evolve during the very ancient times, it's very possible that it's like, how to put it, the society is becoming intelligent and civilized and noble. That's why we are known as the Aryans, the noble. So it separates us from when it was absolutely chaotic and chaos, where species were eating each other. There must have been molestations and rapes where certain alpha male species felt that they can have their way with any woman and maybe just had sex with them against their will. It could have just been absolutely nightmarish species killing each other. But when it gets to the point of civilized thinking and Aryan noble thinking, people, the human race, after it evolved from these various monkey species, will tend to want to put a stop to that and intervene. So civilized way of thinking is now developing. Now, if you were to imagine, now as languages evolved, as emotions are being associated with sounds, eventually writing systems, symbols, funny lines, pictures such as hieroglyphs, whether from South America or Egypt, and now languages are being developed and writing systems have evolved. So when the human species has evolved, it's developed writing systems and due to the what is known as self-realization, God realization, where you realize God. In the ancient times, it's very much mythological how the rishis, the scientists in India, the spiritual masters in Africa or in China or Europe or in the ancient Americas, they realized in a very fictitious way of how we were created. And before these creationist theories were written in texts, whether it was from Sanskrit and the Vedas or the Upanishads, or the Taoist analects, or a book of Amun Ra in ancient Egypt, or the Old Testament. These traditions must have been carried on orally for thousands of years, or maybe hundreds of years, before they're eventually documented and scribed down. So when you compare how a creationist will insist that we were created in some very, very extraordinary circumstances, which is very hard to believe, but they insist that's how we were created because it says it here in this scripture, whatever that scripture may be. It is contradicted by the archaeological evidence of evolution and species, that all religious scriptures were documented by human hands due to the realizations rishis or the realizers of those ancient times experienced. So fast forward millions of years, tens of thousands of years to 2017. Well, we have our rights as a human being to experience our self-realization, our God-realization process, and come to a completely different theory. I'm not saying that we cannot learn very important messages and morals and ethics from ancient mythology. I think there's some very important lessons and good values we can learn from ancient mythology. I'm just simply stating that in our lifetimes, our rishis, our scientists, our swamis have the right to experience our self-realization. Now, what all civilizations throughout the whole planet have realized is a supreme source of consciousness, and this consciousness has been described as God. Now, people in the ancient times realized this higher truth, this higher energy of goodness, and described the way this energy created them in very extraordinary creationist theories, whether it is the Purusha in Asia, where God created the human beings from the head, arms, legs and feet of a cosmic celestial being, or the Trimurti, where it explains that the Vishnu is the sustainer of the universe, and from his navel Brahma created the world and Shiva destroyed the world, or whether it's the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, where it is claimed that the world was created in 7 days and all human beings originated from the first man, Adam, and his rib Eve. Now, this is something that I just simply do not believe is possible. I do not believe that we can come to be in those circumstances. So it's very clearly and very obvious that that was more due to the realization of the intelligent human beings of those times. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, it explains that we have an Atma, a soul, a consciousness, and we also have dimensions. We have the Prakriti, which is the feminine mother nature. Now, in the Prakriti, we have got archaeological evidence of fossils of species such as dinosaurs that go back, that have been carbon dated to hundreds of millions of years ago. Now, we cannot deny the archaeological evidence that has been discovered in the Prakriti, in the material nature. So though we may have scriptures that claim we were created in some very extraordinary ways, when we unearth archaeological evidence such as the evolution of the human skull from the primate to the Homo sapiens to the modern day human, we cannot deny this evidence because it's been found in the Prakriti, the material nature. So it's very important that we teach this Prakriti, that we teach this material nature and what we have found in the material nature. And when what we have discovered in the material nature clearly proves that we evolved, then we must teach evolution. That is my personal opinion. And this is just one of the many crazy thoughts that goes through the mind of some of the many schizophrenics that you may come across. It's extraordinary, is it weird, it's odd, and yes, it is odd. But I'd rather sit here in my own space and contemplate the universe and contemplate evolution rather than engage in other things that people consider normal. And so, though I believe we evolved, I do believe that what science has discovered as an energy that cannot be curated, that cannot be destroyed, is that I believe that energy is the same consciousness that the ancient rishis, the ancient scientists realized, but they refer to it as God and Goddess, because the energy clearly has a masculine and feminine aspect, but this masculine and feminine aspect isn't two different energies, it's one and the same energy. So you can be masculine and get in touch with your feminine side, and you can be feminine and get in touch with your masculine side. That's why when human beings are born, we have those who have masculine souls and we have those who have feminine souls. So the energy clearly has characteristics and has a feminine and masculine aspects. Now, that's basically it. That's where I stand with my beliefs, and it's odd. I feel I had to speak it in a very formal and clear manner so people can take it seriously. Obviously, you will have those who want to ridicule and insult and undermine and belittle with things such as, "Hey, bruh, get me, star. You get me, man. That's bollocks, bruv. You know, you get in touch with the real world, bruv. We're out here make P, yeah. We gotta make this P. You get me?" And you'll have that aspect to it, but I really don't give a shit, because I'd rather have an intelligent Atma, an intelligent soul, and wear shoes from the shoe zone, and keep myself to myself in my own schizophrenic world than conform to what other people think is the norm just to fit in with a superficial lifestyle. Now, self-realization is where you realize God, you realize Goddess. Now, I have personally realized through my mental health, ever since a child, ever since we learnt about the dinosaurs to where I am now, that it's a very important process when we get to the state of intelligent human beings to realize God. And I realize my Lord evolved me. I realize I evolved from the rhesus monkey, or maybe even bears, because bears are mammals. Bears have similar DNA to human beings. They have similar characteristics, and a chance mutation could have happened where bears evolved to human beings. Now, as extraordinary as it may seem, it's possible because a chance mutation happens. It's proven to have happened because we evolved as bacteria mutating in the depths of the ocean billions of years ago to now sitting here and surfing the internet and expressing our views on Wi-Fi. So it's very extraordinary. There has to be something more to our consciousness than what we just experience on this planet. I do honestly believe that there's many other dimensions that we can tune into, and that's it. So we as rishis, as scientists, as swamis, are within our rights to experience our self-realization and document how we believe the Almighty, the Divine, evolved us. And I think it's more important and very, very important that we teach children science of evolution. And that's it really. So if you've watched this till the end, thank you very much. And this is just the odd bod world of a schizophrenic.